without sound and vision.
That's I'm Still Standing, a cut from Elton John's Too Low for Zero album, one of 3 albums we'll be reviewing on this week's edition of Video Album Review. I'm Steve Herlihy.
And I'm Stephen DeFilippis. In addition to Too Low for Zero, we'll also be reviewing Undercover, the Rolling Stones' latest release, and Stevie Nicks' second solo release, The Wild Heart. Now Steve will start with the Rolling Stones' Undercover.
Counting various live and greatest hits packages, the Rolling Stones' latest album, Undercover, is their 32nd record. They may not be a lot compared to the likes of Elvis Presley or Frank Sinatra, but it is an impressive total spanning 21 years of rock and roll. Unfortunately, the last 10 years have found the Rolling Stones making very few good albums. And despite the excellent songs Shattered and Beast of Burden, even the Some Girls album, for the most part, wasn't very interesting lyrically and lacked any spark. Those Rolling Stone fans who go back to the earlier times would probably rather forget the more recent days of Black and Blue, Emotional Rescue, and Tattoo You, and return to the days of Beggar's Banquet, Sticky Fingers, and Exile on Main Street. But I have not come to bury the Rolling Stones, I have come to praise them, because their latest album, Undercover, is their best effort since 1972's Exile on Main Street. The point here isn't that 40-year-old men can still rock and roll. The point is, arguably, the best rock and roll band ever has put out an album that lives up to the standards which earned them that distinction. The first song on side 1 is Undercover of the Night, so the first thing I heard on the album was Charlie Watts' drum beat and Mick Jagger's vocals, and I was hooked. I think it's a great beginning to an excellent record. And now here is the Rolling Stones video for Undercover of the Night.
Lighten up to bust the brains out. Yeah, the fish's tongue is cut in two. Keep off the street cause you're in danger. 100,000 disparados lost in the jails in South America. Curl up, baby. Curl up tight. Curl up, baby. You all else say. Undercover. Back in the jungle, people whisper, people double talk. When spat fathers act so humble. All the young girls, they've got the blues. Ain't no back to set authority. Undercover, all I say. Undercover, all I say. Undercover.
On the album Undercover, Rolling Stones' rhythm section is strong and the lead guitar is the best playing they've done since before Ron Wood joined the group. Wood seems to be back to playing with the same intensity and spark as he showed with his old band Faces, and Keith Richards has come back to life for the first time in quite a while. Side 1 continues with another energetic effort, She Was Hot, the song about a girl who could warm your heart on a cold, rainy night. Tie You Up, The Pain of Love is a pretty self-explanatory title to Jagger's cynical view of relationships, and Richards sings lead on Wanna Hold You, a nice song with a Beatle-type theme. Possibly the weakest song on the album closes out Side 1, Feel On Baby is a reggae-ish song which actually isn't all that bad. Side 2 starts off with probably the best song on the album, Too Much Blood. It's a very danceable song with horn section, but between the lines about dancing and making love are lines about a man taking a woman out on a date and chopping her to pieces. It seems odd to be having fun dancing to a song that also makes reference to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Too Much Blood is followed nicely by Pretty Beat Up, which shows you what frame of mind Mick Jagger is in. Then on Too Tough, he sings about a troubled relationship where he dreams of a girl with a kitchen knife poised over her head, ready to slice him. But he survives as he sings to the pounding of Charlie Watts' drums that he's too tough. The album Undercover does not paint a pretty picture, and with that following Rolling Stones flair, neither does the fourth song on Side 2, All the Way Down. And the album closes out with It Must Be Hell, which shows the Stones' classic rhythm work. Jagger sings unemployment, lack of education, and hunger with a chorus of, quote, It must be hell, living in the world, suffering in the world like you. The Rolling Stones' Undercover is a disturbing album. Not since the 60s and early 70s have the Stones put out such music. There is a social consciousness of the pain and suffering in the world, whether it be murder or a sexual relationship. And despite modern recording techniques, it's done with a hard edge, raw energy. Undercover has that spirit and edge of the good old Rolling Stones, with a lot of danceable songs, which is somewhat disturbing considering there is too much blood out there.
I really don't think that the album was that good. I think that the Rolling Stones in the last 5 or 6 years have gotten to a point where they're just rehashing the same guitar riffs over and over again, just changing the lyrics. And basically, you can't even understand what he's singing. So, to me, I don't understand why they even pay any attention to the lyrics.
Well, typical Rolling Stones, it's difficult to understand the lyrics, and they're not always that important, but to Rolling Stone fans, they will listen to them. And the old Rolling Stones had that kind of demonic, cynical point of view that they didn't have in the later albums. You find that now in their current album. There's talk about the pain of relationships, the pain of that's going on in the world. They're just like they did with Gimme Shelter and songs of that nature, Painted Black. There was songs about pain and suffering, and sometimes done in a tongue-in-cheek way, and sometimes done with a very cynical point of view. But they've lost that, and they have lost the heart.
How can they sing about unemployment and stuff like that when they're millionaires? They have nothing to worry about. How can they sing about something like that convincingly? You know, I don't buy that garbage.
Well, then you're talking about anybody who puts out a record about anything except for what? What are you talking about? Everybody's a millionaire. What are they going to sing about? Love? They're going to sing about being a millionaire then. Is that what you're saying?
I don't see how you can relate the Stones are making social commentary here. I don't think they're in a position to. When they first came up as a band, they were young, they had a lot of energy, they wanted to get a lot of things done. At that point, yes, but not anymore.
So you're saying that anybody who becomes very comfortable in the business shouldn't sing rock and roll?
For a band like the Rolling Stones, who have achieved what they've achieved and they're at the point that they're at, I don't think you can say the album is that good just based on lyrics that, to me, are not very convincing.
Well, I think the lyrics are more convincing than they've done in the past, and I would say that it's not the best thing they've done. It's not as good as Beggar's Banquet. It's not as good as many of the other albums they did back in the old days. And you can't expect it to be exactly as good or comparable, but they moved on. Sure, they're very comfortable, but they put out an album that is very energetic, that they seem to enjoy playing on. And from that standpoint, we should enjoy listening to it.
All right, well, now it's time to move on to the next album. The album Too Low for Zero finds Elton John reunited with original band members Davy Johnstone, Dee Murray, and Nigel Olsson. While this album doesn't contain the consistently first-rate material of this team's efforts of the mid-70s, there is enough good material here to keep a die-hard Elton John fan satisfied. On the best cuts, the album recreates the magic of Elton's hit songs of the mid-70s, while the worst tracks contain some decent melodies that fall short of salvaging meaningless lyrics. The 10 cuts on the album consist of 6 ballads and 4 mid to up-tempo rockers. The standout ballad is I Guess That's Why They Call It the Blues, a candidate in my book for longest song title of the year. On this track, Elton's trademark piano rolls provide the backdrop for a quaint storyline about a young man recently separated from his girlfriend, hoping she'll be there when he returns. Stevie Wonder's guest appearance on harmonica gives the song an urban flavor that reinforces Taupin's lyrics nicely. Cold as Christmas in the Middle of the Year, Saint, and One More Arrow are very inconsistent in quality both lyrically and musically. Cold as Christmas is a pleasant ballad with a catchy melody. Lyrically, however, it is a poor attempt at using old cliches to describe a failing marriage. On Saint, Elton has written an emotional melody. Unfortunately, the quality of the music is wasted on an uninspired mishmash of meaningless lyrics. The lyrical quality improves on One More Arrow, Taupin's tribute to a now-deceased friend. Combining these lyrics with a sensitive falsetto-style vocal by Elton, this cut manages to come off with more than an ounce of sincerity. The remaining ballads on the album, Crystal and the title cut Too Low for Zero, find Elton exploring new musical territory. These songs have a heavy emphasis on synthesizers and drum machines, clearly an attempt by Elton to update his musical repertoire. Of the mid to up-tempo rockers, I'm Still Standing and Religion outclass the others by a wide margin. I'm Still Standing is an energetic romp with an ambiguous lyric that can be interpreted in several ways. Now here's a colorful interpretation, the video, I'm Still Standing.
Just like ice, and there's a cold and lonely light that shines from you. You wind up like the wreck you hide behind that mask you use. And did you think this fool could never win? Well, look at me, I'm coming back again. I got a taste of love in a simple way. And if you need to know while I'm still standing, you just fade away. Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. And I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once I never could have hoped to win. You're starting down the road and leaving me again. The threats you made were meant to cut me down. And if my love was just a circus, you'd be a clown by now. You know I'm still standing better than I ever did. Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing.
On Religion, Elton presents the listener with a bouncy, country-flavored melody reminiscent of his Goodbye Yellow Brick Road era. Elton's tongue-in-cheek vocal delivery complements a lyric which takes a playful jab at the born-again religious movement. This cut represents the best Taupin and John team effort on the album. The remaining tracks, Kiss the Bride and Whipping Boy, try to be up-tempo rockers, but instead come off plodding and uninspired. While Kiss the Bride contains a witty lyric that portrays a man at his former lover's wedding, it is saddled with a mediocre melody and a tiresome beat. Whipping Boy is a story about a boy fed up with his domineering girlfriend, sung by Elton without a trace of conviction. Elton John has been recording albums for over a decade, but as recently as 4 years ago seemed destined for rock and roll oblivion. However, Too Low for Zero finds Elton continuing along the comeback trail, which began with 1982's Jump Up. While neither album contains uniformly first-rate material, the best cuts indicate that there is still a vast amount of talent here waiting to be tapped. Considering all the one-hit acts now dominating the record charts, it sure would be nice to have Elton John return as a rock and roll regular.
I don't totally agree with you about some of the songs, individual songs. I think certain songs are very good. I like Kiss the Bride. I think Crystal's a good song. I really tried to like this album. That was, when I came in listening to it, I wanted to like it. The problem is, I didn't totally. There were certain songs on side one that they all sounded good, actually. And a couple songs on side two, the last three songs I thought were terrible. I didn't like that One More Arrow. I thought it was done terribly. The falsetto wasn't effective.
I thought the falsetto was one of the best parts of the song. It's the lyrics are very emotional, and the falsetto vocal gave it the emotion in there that reinforced the lyric.
We disagree there. I think it's an all right album. It sounds all right. I personally haven't liked many of the Elton John albums since the Honky Chateau, which was back in 1972. Since then, he's put out some albums with hits. They've sold millions in the first week that they were put out, but most of the albums were terrible. On this album, again, you've got some good songs, you've got some terrible ones. It's an all right album. It's the best Elton John done in a long time, but that's not saying much.
I thought that it had more good songs than bad songs, and
agreed there, but the good songs weren't that strong.
It was a significant step up for Elton on his comeback trail. I thought that it was a solid album. Granted, not all the songs were great, but it was a solid album, and there were enough good songs on it to prove that Elton John is coming back.
Okay, I agree. It was a good comeback album for him. Going back to Stevie Nicks' earlier years with Fleetwood Mac, she wrote some very good songs, including Rhiannon and Dreams. But in the last several years, with the albums Tusk and Mirage, her music has become more and more mysterious and a little more boring. She seemed to be saving herself for her solo career. And with the start of her solo career came the album Belladonna, where her teaming up with Tom Petty brought the hit Stop Dragging My Heart Around. However, the best teaming up she did was with ex-Eagle Don Henley on the fine song Leather and Lace. Unfortunately, the only other good song on Belladonna besides Leather and Lace is Highwayman. And I would have to say that Highwayman is the finest song Stevie Nicks has written to date. Which brings us up to her new effort, The Wild Heart, a somewhat refreshing departure from her work on the Fleetwood Mac Mirage album. It's refreshing because there is a lot more energy. It's not nearly as boring as her work on Mirage, or even on Belladonna. With both solo albums, she has surrounded herself with excellent musicians, from outstanding studio musicians to Tom Petty's Heartbreakers to Roy Bittan of the E Street Band. And on the whole, it's a good sounding album, although it does have its share of boring songs. Now let's have a look at one of the songs from The Wild Heart. Here's Stand Back.
Said no to his
All of Stevie Nicks' songs on the Wild Heart seem to be about love, relationships, and failed relationships. And once again, Stevie Nicks has come off sounding mysterious with her singing about shadows and the darkness in our minds. But she mainly comes off sounding mysterious because her lyrics are just plain hard to figure out. For example, on the song Stand Back, the first verse goes, "No one looked as I walked by. Just an invitation would have been just fine. Said no to him again and again. First he took my heart, then he ran." She follows that verse up by saying, "No one knows how she feels or what she says unless you read between her lines." Well, I guess you have to believe her, but Stand Back is still a very danceable song that sounds good. Sometimes, however, you're better off not knowing what she is singing about. On Beauty and the Beast, she sings, "There is no beauty without my beast." The beast, I guess, is the man she loves. On top of the terrible lyrics, it's a very boring song. So is Nightbird, Sable on Blonde, and I Will Run to You with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Petty's music seems to drag along these days, and that is certainly the case with this one effort on this album. Nothing ever changes as simple lyrics, but at least they're not embarrassing, and it's an up-tempo rocker full of sax. Except for Nightbird, side one is a very listenable side. Wild Heart and Gate and Garden are okay, but the two best songs on the album are If Anyone Falls and Enchanted. If Anyone Falls has Bruce Springsteen own Roy Bittan on synthesizer, and backup vocals give the song a little flavor of ABBA. But the best song is Enchanted. It's a very catchy, energetic song filled with Roy Bittan's piano playing. This ranks up with the best that Stevie Nicks has ever done, with Fleetwood Mac or on her own. Unfortunately, for the most part, Stevie Nicks' songwriting is very poor and confusing. But on the other hand, The Wild Heart is a more listenable album than Belladonna or any work she has done in several years.
I agree. I think, thank God for the backup singers, because if I had to listen to a whole album of Stevie Nicks singing lead and backup, I think I'd be ready to vomit. Her voice is so monotonous. You keep hearing that same bleating over and over. It sounds like a herd of sheep. It's, you know, on Fleetwood Mac, I could stand it because she's on there for a couple songs on the album, and that's fine, mixed in with the other people's vocals. But a whole album of listening to that wavering vocal over and over, I just got very bored.
I agree that her style is very boring, and On this album, I was somewhat surprised that it was still a listenable album. I had gone in thinking
because of the music.
Because of the music, she has very good musicians playing with her, and the music is very good. It sounds good. Her lyrics are, for the most part, terrible. But it's a good sounding album, and it's not as boring as I anticipated it being because of what she has done with Fleetwood Mac. I was expecting something that I was not going to be able to listen to a couple songs. A couple songs in a row would be too much. This is better than that, and it's better than her first album because of that. Belladonna was something that it was very boring. It had that Mirage type Stevie Nicks work on it for album from song to song. This album has more good songs on it than that. And I don't say it's a good album, but it's better than I expected.
Now let's take a look at the albums we reviewed on this week's program using a rating scale of 1 to 4 stars, with 4 stars being the highest rating. Steve gave the Rolling Stones' Undercover 3.5 stars, saying it was the best playing and writing they've done since Exile on Main Street, while I disagreed and gave it 2.5 stars because of some unoriginal songwriting and unnecessarily violent lyrics. I gave Elton John's Too Low for Zero, an album that finds Elton recapturing some but not all of his magic of the 70s, 3 stars, while Steve gave it 2.5 stars, feeling that song for song it's the best album Elton John has put out in years, which isn't saying a whole lot. Finally, Steve gave Stevie Nicks' The Wild Heart 2 stars for a nice-sounding album with a couple of good songs, but a style that is somewhat tiresome, while I also gave it 2 stars, agreeing that the album is tiresome with a never-changing vocal style. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be reviewing 3 more albums, including the second solo release by Robert Plant, The Principle of Moments. Say goodnight, Steve.
Good night, Steve.
Lighting up to burst the brains out. The opposition's tongue is cut in two. Keep off the street cause you're in danger. 100,000 disparates lost in the jails in South America.